The first thing Elias Morgan noticed when he stepped into the classroom was the silence. Not the calm, respectful silence of a lecture hall, but the sharp, suffocating kind, like the moment before something goes terribly wrong. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward him. Some were luminous and faceted like gemstones. Others glowed softly beneath translucent skin. A few belonged to species with no visible pupils at all, only shifting patterns of color that pulsed with emotion. Every single gaze was fixed on Elias, the lone human boy standing awkwardly in the doorway of the Galactic Lyceum's most restricted classroom. Xenobiology honors. Female lineages only. Elias swallowed. Hi, he said, raising one hand slightly. I think I'm assigned here. A low ripple of sound passed through the room. Not speech, hissing, clicking ultrasonic trills. The translator implant behind Elias's ear struggled, flickering warnings across his vision. Emotional spike detected. Subjects, multiple. Category, distress/shock/aggression. At the front of the room, Instructor Viral froze mid-motion. The tall, four-armed Kthari female stared at Elias as though he had just materialized out of forbidden magic. You, she said slowly, her voice echoing through the chamber, are a male and a human. Yes, ma'am, Elias replied automatically. Years of Earth schooling had conditioned him well. Elias Morgan, exchange student. A sharp crack echoed as one of the desks fractured. The student sitting there, a tall, willowy alien girl with shimmering violet skin, jumped back as the crystalline surface split down the middle. Her frills flared in alarm. He triggered a stress reaction, she cried. No, another voice snapped. It's worse. His presence is destabilizing the field. Elias looked down. The soft blue glow embedded in the classroom floor, the emotional regulation lattice designed to prevent violent incidents among volatile species, was flickering erratically beneath his boots. Oh, that's probably bad, Elias muttered. The Galactic Lyceum had agreed to accept a single human student as part of a symbolic peace initiative. What they hadn't properly accounted for was how unusual humans were by galactic standards. Elias had been placed into xenobiology honors because of his high adaptability scores. Unfortunately, due to a clerical oversight involving incompatible translation of the word gender, he had been assigned to a class composed entirely of alien girls whose species evolved under strict matriarchal dominance. Species where males were rare. Species where males were fragile. Species where males had never survived exposure to unfiltered emotional resonance. The room began to hum. Several students clutched their heads. One let out a sharp cry as the air thickened, shimmering with psychic feedback. What's happening? Elias asked, panic creeping into his voice. Instructor Viral slammed two hands onto the control console. The lattice is amplifying your neural output. Human emotional density is stars above, it's off the charts. I'm just nervous, Elias protested. I'm not doing anything. That is doing something, a student shouted. He's broadcasting raw emotional noise. The hum became a roar. Cracks spiderwebbed across the walls as pressure built within the room. Not physical, but mental. Several species present were empathic by nature, their minds resonating uncontrollably with Elias's unshielded human psyche. Fear, curiosity, embarrassment, determination. Human emotions, unfiltered and relentless. The first explosion wasn't fire, it was light. A pulse of blue-white energy erupted from the lattice, throwing desks aside like toys. The ceiling panels rattled. Emergency shields snapped into place with a deafening clang. Students screamed. Everyone down. Instructor Viral bellowed. Elias was knocked off his feet, sliding across the floor as the world spun. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. I did this, he realized in horror. I'm hurting them. No, he whispered, forcing himself to his knees. No, stop, please. He closed his eyes and did the one thing humans had been doing for centuries in moments of chaos. He breathed. Slow, deep, controlled. In through the nose, out through the mouth. He focused not on fear, but on care. On the fact that every alien girl in this room was scared, confused, and hurting because of him. I don't want to be a threat, he thought. I want to help. The psychic roar faltered. The lattice flickered. Then, astonishingly, it began to stabilize. The hum dropped to a manageable thrum. The pressure eased. Cracks stopped spreading. Students slowly lifted their heads, stunned. What did he do? One whispered. Elias opened his eyes. The glow beneath him had changed, no longer chaotic, but smooth, steady, almost harmonious. Instructor Viral stared. He's regulating himself. That's impossible, another student said. Humans don't have psychic dampeners. No, Viral replied quietly. They have something else. Elias stood, hands shaking but voice steady. I'm sorry. I didn't know I'd affect you like that. But I can learn. Just tell me what to do. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the violet-skinned student whose desk had shattered stepped forward. Her frills settled cautiously. You contained a resonance surge that would have hospitalized most of our males, she said softly. Without training. Elias gave a weak smile. Guess I'm stubborn. A few students laughed, nervous, disbelieving sounds. Instructor Viral straightened. Class, she announced, today's lesson has changed. She looked at Elias with newfound respect. Today we study human emotional resilience. The emergency alarms faded. Maintenance drones began repairing the damage. The classroom, though battered, still stood. And so did Elias. By the end of the cycle, word had spread across the Lyceum. A human boy had entered an alien girl's class. The room had nearly exploded, and instead of breaking, the human had held himself together, strong enough to steady everyone else. For the first time, the galaxy began to understand. Humans weren't dangerous because they lacked control. They were dangerous because, when it mattered most, they chose control. And that choice changed everything. The weeks that followed transformed the Galactic Lyceum in ways no administrator could have predicted. Elias Morgan did not transfer out of xenobiology honors. Instead, the room was rebuilt around him. The emotional regulation lattice was upgraded, not to suppress human resonance, but to study it. Scientists, empathic specialists, and even diplomatic observers began quietly attending the class, standing behind reinforced observation glass as the impossible unfolded. The alien girls learned faster when Elias was present. Their focus sharpened. Their emotional stability improved. Species once considered too volatile for mixed company learning began adapting, synchronizing unconsciously to the steady rhythm of the human boy's mind. He never dominated the room. He grounded it. To Elias, it felt strange. He was still just a boy, still missed Earth, still worried about exams, still flinched when too many eyes turned his way. But whenever panic rippled through the class, whenever emotional feedback threatened to spiral, he breathed and the storm calmed. One cycle, the violet-skinned student approached him after class. On my world, she said quietly, males are sheltered, protected. They collapse under pressure. She met his eyes. You walked into pressure. And stayed. Elias shrugged, embarrassed. Guess humans are used to messy rooms. She laughed, a sound once thought too dangerous for open classrooms. By the end of the term, the Lyceum issued a new classification. Human Emotional Architecture, stabilizing species. It reshaped interstellar policy. Humans were no longer viewed as fragile anomalies or unpredictable risks. They were invited, carefully, respectfully, into places no one else could stand. Conflict mediation chambers, high-resonance diplomacy halls, crisis classrooms. Anywhere emotions ran hot, a human could walk in and choose calm. Years later, when Elias stood before the Galactic Council as an adult ambassador, they would still whisper about that day. The day a human boy entered an alien girl's class. The day the room nearly exploded. And the day the galaxy learned something it would never forget. Humans did not conquer with claws or psychic force. They conquered with restraint, with empathy, with the quiet, terrifying strength to feel everything and still hold the world together.